Okay.
It's funny that you asked that because I've been a lot of my self-reflection here recently has been, I would say I put a lot of effort into making sure I've got time with my wife and my kids. But if I really try to get humble about it and reflect, I think my 100-year-old self would say, "Hey, idiot, you think you're trying right now, but you actually need to devote more time. You need to figure out how to shave more time off that other shit you're doing for work and whatever else, and you need to figure out how to get more time." Because I think that 100-year-old me is going to find somewhere to dig up some regret to say,
For
fuck,
sure.
I wish when I was 45, I did this with them, or I did that, or I took them here, or we went and did experience that together. I do, and I don't know that I'm ever going to outrun that. I think that's just my conscience keeping me honest and saying that that needs to
Yeah.
always be your priority, no matter how fired up you get about hunting season or how fired up you get about this job or whatever else. Like they've got to stay at the top of your priority list.
Robin Hood and Little John are walking through the forest, laughing back and forth at what the other has to say.
Oh, all right, family. Welcome back to the FOC Front of Center podcast. Today we got Bo Sandoval on. Bo was actually my first guest on the podcast. We never released it because we didn't have our shit together at the time, and so we think we're getting there now, right? So, Bo, thanks for joining us today, bud. Um, yeah, man, we've been buddies for a while. This is an easy conversation. Um, we're getting ready to go into hunting season for us here. And I think maybe you've got some stuff planned. Where are you going? What do you got going, bud?
Yeah. Well, our archery opener here in Texas is September 27th, so we're not that far away.
Yeah.
Um, and then, the shenanigans that go on in Texas, man, it's a work weekend almost every weekend. So a lot of
Yeah.
feeding, a lot of clearing, we get a ton of growth in the woods during the summer months down here. We kind of get through our monsoon season. So clearing trails and clearing shooting lanes and all that kind of stuff is always kind of ongoing. You're battling the roughage down here. But yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
been good. It's been hot, and you start seeing these animals kind of move through velvet, and they're sprouting, and now they're getting ready. We're probably within 3-4 weeks of them getting hard horned.
Okay.
So it's getting exciting. And then
Yeah, dude.
down in South and West Texas, I've got a couple leases down there. So I've got I can't wait to tell you all about him, but I've got a heck of an Axis who is routinely hanging out in a corner of the area that I hunt down in Sonora, and he's an absolute brute. We call him El Gordo, and yeah, he's a cool story
How long have
behind
you had
that.
that
But
lease down there? That one.
I got on in March, and the guys that I got on with have been there for about 5 years. So,
Okay.
um, and they lease out. So we basically lease out a 6,000 acre chunk from a gentleman who's got a 23,000 acre ranch there. So he's got like a couple of different chunks that he leases out. But he raises Angora goats, which are big like wool industry goats. So he shears about, I think, 3 to 5,000 goats twice a year, and that's how he makes his living. And then, man, he's got some impressive free range animals running around. West and South Texas, all the low fence stuff becomes kind of the refuge to all the stuff that escapes the high fences. So, we've had black bucks pass through. We've got aoudad sheep, aoudad rams. We've got scimitar oryx and a healthy stable of axis. There's axis everywhere, which are some of my
Yeah.
favorite to hunt and definitely to eat. So yeah, it's wild down there. We're obviously, our primary target is the whitetail. There's some serious talent down there just with the genetics that are roaming around.
Yeah.
Um, and we've got a great group of guys managing them and just being selective and feeding year round, out in the desert. Um, Feed is definitely attractive, but the more attractive thing is water. And so putting out water sources and running water, we've got huge water tanks that we're hooking up and driving around and dumping water off once a month at different
Yeah.
locations.
So are
That's
you
a
down there like weekends, like taking the kids and the family and just go and work in your Or finish them?
I've taken the boys a couple times. My wife hasn't made it down yet since we got on, but I'm dying to get her down there.
Yeah.
It's about a little under 6 hour drive for us to get down there.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, we've got a cool setup with camp, man. We've got a 40,000 gallon concrete cattle tank that they've converted into a swimming pool. So they chlorinate it, they run a pump in it, and so man, we work all morning. It starts getting hot around 1:30 or so,
Yeah.
and dude, we make some mixed drinks and we go chill in the pool and just kind of hang out. And that water's coming out of the ground, so it's about 68 degrees, pretty
Okay.
much year round.
That's
Um,
beautiful. Then it keeps you
so
cool
man,
off.
to cool off is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a good spot. We always do cook some good food. We kind of, take turns on who's cooking what. We got a smoker down there and then a flat top and
Yep.
a charcoal grill. So we've got the spread. But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
it looks like it almost looks post-apocalyptic, man. We've just got these homemade bunkhouses kind of one after another stacked in a circle up on a high point on the ranch, and then the 6,000 acres that we hunt is essentially down and around it. So there's some areas within hiking distance, and then some areas you're taking, a couple mile ride on the side by side, then getting dumped off and hiking in.
Yeah.
We've got some great topography in that area of the state too. So we've got some awesome drainages and some ridge lines, which I think is why a lot of the exotics love that area. That's why they kind of run to that area, as they've got some deep stuff to hide in and feed around in, and then they've got some high ridge tops and some saddles to kind of travel through. So
And
it's a cool spot.
you guys can hunt like I mean, it's a long season, right? So it's not like here where you got an 8-day window and you got to go get it done. Like you have a pretty wide open kind of window where
Yeah,
you
we
okay,
don't
so they
have
pick
it.
them.
So if you have MLD tags, like the management landowner tags, the season goes a lot longer. We don't. We use our license tags. Archery starts basically first week in October every year. Rifle starts the first weekend in November. And then the season's pretty much done by first week of January.
Okay.
And there's some youth stuff and some special, permanent stuff, but we don't really mess with that. We kind of run that, and then we get back to feeding and beefing up on the protein and stuff right after the season and just try to keep them growing. So this area of the state got hit pretty hard with anthrax in about 2019. So it wiped out. I mean, all I heard about as a kid was Sonora, Texas, Sonora, Texas, Sonora, Texas,
Yeah.
and then it kind of got wiped out in 2019. It was a 95% kill off on the whitetail, about a 90% kill off on the axis. And so whatever survived, you're now starting to see some 5 and 6 year olds. We have a absolute butt ton of 3.5 and 4.5 year olds.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see more fawns. We're starting to see bigger We haven't shot, these guys haven't shot does in 5 years. So you're starting to see bigger populations of does. Now the axis have 2 breeding seasons a year. So they reproduce a lot faster. So they're booming. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
It won't. I mean, in an evening, you'll see 50 or 60 of them, passing through down a road or something. But
Right.
the whitetail are coming back strong. It's just these next couple of years between now and probably 2027 is when we'll start seeing bigger numbers in that 6.5, 7 year old range, just because of that 2019 kill off. So, and
What's the
that's what
size
also opened
between
up that's also what opened up a lot of opportunities for guys like me, is because a lot of those that have been on those leases for years, they moved off because they didn't
yeah,
want to go through the wait. Whereas there's guys like me that kind of scooped up stuff like this, and we're willing to wait a couple years
right.
and manage it to hopefully get into some good animals, coming down the pipe. So
When you manage it, Bo, how do you do as far as like those? How do you choose? Because you're going to shoot some bucks out of that herd, right? You're going to cull out.
yeah,
You're going to try and cull out something.
yeah,
How do you decide what? Because I'm a Western guy. I
sure,
grew up in Oklahoma and Missouri, but I don't really know the science behind culling out a buck
yeah.
or not.
If you get down to the hard knocks research, there's not a lot of research that supports culling.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of the horn growth and some of the size really revolves around genetics and food. When they've got better browse, I mean, look, we put out tons and tons of feed, but still, the majority of their diet is going to come from what they browse on year round.
yeah,
So that plays a hefty role in it. And now we have rules per our lease agreement where the landowner wants us to shoot what he calls slick horns. So anything that doesn't have brow tines, um, particularly if they're 3 years old and older and they don't have brow tines, he wants you to smack them.
Yeah.
I probably won't do that, but there's guys on our lease that will, and we got kids, people bringing kids and stuff that will.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, I mean, we're really trying to kill 5 years old and bigger right now.
Yeah.
So we're trying to stay away. We've got some really talented 4.5-year-olds, man, that you get somebody in there that hasn't really looked and try to has a lot of experience kind of aging deer. It's really easy to get, kind of tricked by a 4.5-year-old 12 point that's got, 6-inch brow tines and 21-inch main beams. They're like, oh, and then you look at their brisket and it's tiny and their legs look really long and their back's nice and straight. And, so we really try to work with each other. We share a lot of photos amongst each other to kind of get opinions on things too, because you get those that are borderline and they'll trick you. And with what we got going on right now, it's safer to just wait. And then, we've seen some hammers, and when they come out and you start comparing the pictures, you're like, okay, that's that's a 6-year-old. No question.
This is the guy we're looking for.
It's bigger, it's heavier. His ears are drooping. He's got wrinkles behind the ears. He's got sway in his back. His brisket's 4 to 6 inches long. That's getting into an older, more weathered deer. And then when they're bachelored up like this too, the other thing is those older deer, they don't bachelor up a whole lot. They might have one little dink with them, but those groups of 4.5 and 3.5-year-olds, man, they'll come in 8, 10 at a time, just piled up. And those old boys won't be with them. They'll wait and they'll come in later or they'll come in earlier. So a lot of observation, just trying to get some of the old boys in there. Historically in that area, 6 to 8 years old has produced some world-class B&C bucks, and that's what we're trying to get back to.
And that's what you're looking for sure.
That area in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s was just absolute hammerville. So love to see it come back to that.
Absolutely, bud. Dude, as always, I kind of get right into it, but Bo Sandoval, you're at Texas A&M. Tell us what you're doing real quick so we can get back to it.
So I've recently just transitioned. I've recently just transitioned a little bit. Been a strength and conditioning coach for a little over 20 years now, 23 years or so. And just moved in, got an opportunity with A&M, their School of Kinesiology and sport management, teaching master's classes. So I will be teaching practicum strength and conditioning courses, and then also helping to place those master's students into internships. Particularly, they want to use some of my bandwidth to get them outside of the state. Historically, A&M's done a great job with getting internships, in the state of Texas, universities, high schools, and every now and then something out of the state, but really kind of using my network to help get these kids into some more adventurous places if that's what they're looking for. So we've got a couple teed up already with some pro teams in the NFL and Major League Baseball, as well as working on some relationships with the UFC, professional soccer. The Houston Dynamo are right down the road. Just trying to give them some more ambitious spots to go and tickle their fancy a little bit. This day and age, strength and conditioning has got so many avenues that you can go get experience. It's not like back in the day where you either had to go to a university or a pro team, and then eventually it was a high school, and maybe you could get into some small colleges and junior colleges. And now it's like, I could send you down to the sheriff department down the road, and they have a strength coach there, or down to the military base. And, there's so many different avenues to go and get experience in now. So we're just trying to broaden what we're offering students that are pursuing that career. So it's been fun.
Changed so much, dude. Like I was on a fishing trip in Belize, and a couple of the guys that were there haven't ever really approached their fitness with any real serious, approach. And one of them was an old thrower, and he had found out that I threw stuff when I was younger, and he's asking me about the workouts, right? And he's kind of going through the normal, like deadlift and bench and squat and whatever. And And I kind of told him, I said, from listening to guys like you, Bo, where for one, strength and conditioning is a completely different animal than when I was in high school in the 90s, where it was all bigger, faster, stronger, and you were just measuring, your power cleans and your deadlift and your squat and your bench or whatever it was. And I just told him, I said, it's different now. Like, it is completely different world, the way the guys are coaching to move. And I think it was you, I think it was you talked about like minimum required dosage, for strength and for movement, and not just this go in and do max reps, right? Where you're going in, okay, you're going to go do as many deadlifts as you can and whatever. And just kind of telling him, and it got me thinking about when I first started lifting when I was younger, there was really not, I mean, it's aging me a little bit, but I mean, we didn't really know a lot about what we were doing then. Now that you look back and say, okay, I mean, you guys got strong, of course, but I mean, with what you guys are doing now and how much it's changed and how much people are really seeing the value and how much it improves really everything we're doing, right? And we've always known that, like you've known that since you were little, but you're just seeing that everybody is pulling weight and strength training into their program, whatever the industry is. They go, we're going to get more out of this person by them being more fit. And it sounds stupid and simple to say, but it took a long time to see that really get adopted into all
Yeah.
industry.
It's a learning curve like anything else. I mean, our industry it's ever evolving, and it will. 10 years from now, what I'm talking about may not even be at the center of the
Hmm.
conversation. So it's evolved
Yep.
quite a bit. And, I started studying this in school in 2003, and from what's evolved to now, like, yeah, there's been a major change. I
Yeah.
would say what we've done is back in the day, it was just easy to objectify moving load. And so that's what we learned how to do first is how do we quantify load, pick the lifts that give us the most return in terms of compound movements, multi-joint movements, athletic movements, high rate of speed movements, big force
Yeah.
producing, low rate of speed movements, And if I just keep track of those numbers over time, I can tell whether or not Brian's getting better or someone's getting better. Um,
Yeah.
I would say we still use a lot of that. We still use a ton of that. The only difference now is we have so much other objectivity to try to find efficacy. And that's the only other thing. Back then, we weren't as conscientious about burning the candle from both ends. Whereas
Yeah.
now it's like, man, if I got some other calories left over, I'd rather spend them doing the sport or the skill or recovering from the other work that we've already done. So
Yes.
that idea of the minimum effective dose is like just enough venom to cure what we're dealing with, but I don't want to overdose so much that I can't do my job. I can't do the
Yeah.
skill that I'm actually getting paid to do.
Yeah.
And so there's a fine line. We've just got a lot more metrics now where we can kind of walk that line a little tighter. And
Yeah.
and we still use a lot of the old fashioned metrics too, which is grit and will and how much motivation does that athlete have
Yeah.
intrinsically.
Yeah.
Those things they'll get you even closer to that line, regardless of what the objectivity says. So we
Yeah.
definitely still use a lot of that. But
Yeah. Those things are,
and then the
they're hard.
movement libraries have just expanded. Like we've
What
learned
do you mean
so
by
much
that?
about just, everything started out very frontal, bilateral. Then we learned more and more variation. And some of it, honestly, we picked up from the history books. There were guys finding illustrations and drawings out of books from the early 1800s and late 1700s of people carrying things. You can't tell what it is, but they're lunging and they're lateral lunging and they're stepping up onto things. There's someone found a drawing from like the 1830s in a book, hand drawn of someone doing a Nordic hamstring curl. So like some of these
Yeah.
things been around for a long time, but then we've also expanded, and I attribute a lot of this to the throwing world, but a lot of rotational components and multi-vector rotational components. Again, things that walk up and down the spectrum of speed or force. And
Yeah.
then nowadays too, we've learned how to use other implements to kind of help tease out other deficits in our force production. So things like bands and odd objects,
Yeah.
accommodating resistance, assisted resistance. There's so many, we learned a lot about contrasting schemes and, how to super excite the system with something really heavy and then unload it and make it do something really ballistic. Those were things that kind of came through these years of the 1900s. And
Yeah.
there's so many avenues that have expanded. And dude, that's just the resistance training portion. You get into energy systems and it's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother litany
Absolutely.
of research
Yeah.
of what we've learned about how we metabolize energy and how that transfers into output. And it's yeah, it's wild. But that's what makes it fun is you basically learning how to upgrade your engine 1 year at a time as new things come out and new methods come
Yeah.
out. And yeah.
Something I found lately, Bo, and I think this is just like me and you talking as buddies, and everybody else have to put up with my shit right now. But something that I've been kind of struggling with, Bo, lately, and just I think some advice from you as a friend is that, for me, the weight room, um, has always been a mental recovery space for me. Either early in the day, just getting my head straight, or sometimes both at the end of the day as well. I'll come in the weight room. If I just had a shit day, I'll come in and just smash whatever weight, and it doesn't have rhyme. It doesn't have reason. I'm not like a physical specimen of a human. I'm not super, super fit compared to most 45-year-olds. I can hold my own, no problem, but as I've taken on some of these more outdoor geared type workout systems, there's so much to it. I come in and I have to pull up the app, and I love dearly the guys that are writing these workouts, for me that I'm using, but like I'm looking at my phone the whole time, and I'm sick of my phone by the time the day comes, or I don't want to start my day by looking at my phone. I've got emails and shit's pinging me up, and I could probably filter that out. But I've been struggling with this, Bo, around like, for me, it's a mental recovery as much physical. And so most of the time I just come in the weight room, I turn up the music really loud, and I just start moving shit around, and it's random. And I know from a guy like you that has built his career out of programming and cycling and all these things, that's just got to be the wrong way to go. But for me, it's like I'm having a hard time getting away from that, because it's just for me it's just a mental dump.
Yep.
It's a physical, just energy dump that I need to do. It makes me feel better. I just come in and listen to my body and go, what's not sore? All right, I'm going to destroy that today. And I'll come back at it tomorrow again. But I mean, for guys like me that maybe it's ADD, maybe I'm lazy. I mean, I don't ever miss a day, right? I don't, like, because
Yeah.
I'm addicted to it in a way. But I mean, how do you approach that from you being the very
Yeah.
opposite of me in the way that you know exactly what I should be doing and shouldn't be doing? But I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm struggling with that. Like, I have a hard time. In fact, I'm less consistent when I'm trying to follow somebody else's workout and programming guiding than I am if I just come in and I just do it myself, and just move my body.
Yeah. No, to be honest with you, a lot of elite athletes, they struggle with the same thing. Um, they get so accustomed to progression and um, and even progressive overload in their skills and the skills they develop. When it
Yeah.
comes to training, sometimes that mental release, well, I call it exercising the demons. That
Yeah.
part, like they all need that. And some of the most analytical sports need it the most when you get into like say a quarterback or a golfer. They're constantly analyzing and thinking before they act, right?
Yeah.
And so typically they just need to go blow some steam off. They need to spike
Yeah.
their heart rate till they're damn near ready to puke.
Yep.
Um, or grind on something really heavy to where it almost felt dangerous for a second, and then just so
Yeah.
they can like get that ultimate dump as a release. And
Yeah.
so there's a couple ways that I do that so that we still have some structure when with what we're doing. So if I'm prescribing, there are going to be certain things that I'm after that are regimented over long-term periods of time because we're looking for an adaptation from them. That's going to be non-negotiable. Those things are going to be very well thought out. They're going to be planned at the appropriate times so it doesn't take away from practice or from anything else. And then there's going to be this window of stuff where they need that, where it's going to be like, listen, this is basically, I'm going to give you some options and you can fuck around with it however you want. If you choose to count, you can count. If you don't want to count, don't count. Just go till you can't go. Um, and so we'll kind of drop things like that in there. And then I always have stuff like that at the ready because you never know when someone's going to walk in and they're just like, hey, man, today I kind of just need to like blow one out.
Yep.
Especially fighters, man. I would get that all the time. Today, I feel like I just need to not think and blow one out. No problem. I got you. And then we throw
Yeah.
this in. But there was always a prerequisite or a conversation of, hey, on these 2 days of the week, we're going to have to get this in. So if we're going to play fuck around right now, that's okay. But we've got to be able to make the other investment at some point in the week. And usually I'd get, some nucks, and it's like, yeah, no, the deal. Let's do it.
Yeah, I got
Now,
you. I'll get you Thursday, but today I just need to blow it off, right? And
and
just
yeah,
smash.
and I'll be the first one to admit, man, if you're not training for a specific event or a specific contest or competition or whatever, um, you don't need the precision of the regiment doesn't need to be on point. You kind of you're looking to try to just stay within striking distance all the time, right? You're not really trying to peak for something on a particular day. The only thing I would say, the thing that should never lack precision is how you move. So even if you're going in today and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do whatever I feel. Whatever I grab first, that thing's going to get moved around really heavy and fast. That's fine, but with precision. So when we do movements, it's like a surgeon. It doesn't matter if you're a competitive athlete or non-competitive athlete. Move well, because that's going to give you better results anyway, and then it's also going to keep you out of the hurt locker. But
Yeah.
then when you have those athletes that there is hey, we're training for a specific job that I have to do on a specific day. Okay, we've got to have some periodized approach to help prep you for that, so that it's well thought out and we can track it so that we can review it later on. So if it met our standard of how we wanted to perform, great, we might reuse it. If it didn't, we may need to re-engineer it or retool it to upgrade it for next time. Whereas someone who's just looking to try to stay within striking distance all the time, we don't need to get that anal about that. We don't need to overanalyze, that planning process as much.
Yeah.
But we do need to move well. If we're going to do something, we need to do it well. That's about the only thing that I would kind of just say for anyone that's got that sort of mentality, was like, man, I just need to come in here to step away from life and from work and from whatever else.
What's hard, because that's what it is
Yeah.
for me, right? It really is like a mental health approach to a movement.
Yeah.
And just the days can be so busy and so full, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I've been following tasks and checking boxes all day long, right? And
Yeah.
having to be on this phone, and I think part of it's that relationship with the device itself, where I'm getting the workout from, but it's also just needing a break. And I think that for me, that's kind of my approach, is just I've always
I would
kind of
argue that when you were an athlete too, you were getting into a fight or flight mode daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Whereas
yeah,
in your corporate mode, you're probably not getting dosed with that as often. So when you get to actually grab a piece of steel in your hands, you're like,
yeah.
let me loose, like let me free.
Oh yeah.
Um,
And it's that moments where you just want to punch somebody in the face, right? Negotiating
yeah.
contracts for just people. And I think you come back with just like so much of that. Like
Yeah.
there was an Instagram thing I've sent to a couple buddies over the years where it was something about like the influencer that has the perfect workout and all the things planned out. And then it went to like us 40-year-old men that's just like the Hulk, and he's just like smashing things against the ground. You know what I mean? And you probably saw that too.
Yeah.
But I was like,
Yeah.
that's me, right? Like I don't have a great plan. I don't have a whole lot going. I just know that like that needs to happen, right, for me. And it served me really well over the years.
Yeah. And I think that, with that kind of mentality, at some point, I don't know, let's say 5 years from now, maybe some objective pops up in your head and you're like, you know what, I kind of want to get better at this. Well, you can
Yeah.
take that same lifestyle you got right now and then just tailor a couple of things to target whatever that thing might be. And
Right.
you can still do exactly what you're doing, but now you've got one objective that you're going to put some targeted stuff in there for.
Yeah.
It's easy. So you can kind of have the best of both worlds. But
Totally.
if you don't need to objectify anything, man, be a
Right.
free spirit.
And I
Like,
think there's a seasonality to that, right? Allowing yourself the room. As we're talking, the kind of thought came to my mind of like, just, I think if I was going to talk to another man my age, like just give yourself space for that.
mhm.
But don't let like perfect get in the way of good enough. And I think the weight room is a place where I believe, and again, me and you sit maybe on different sides of the table of that, because you've grown, you've got your teeth on being really, really good. But I think good enough is good enough for a lot of guys, especially kind of my age, 45 years old.
Yeah.
But what you're touching on is exactly right, because there's a good chance of getting hurt if you come in here and you just start stacking plates on without all the warm up movements. And I've got a
And
pretty consistent
And
warm
there's
up.
obviously levels to that game. Someone who is trained as an elite athlete and who was coached as an elite athlete, your depth of what you know is going to be much different than the average dad who's just like, I need to work out, and maybe doesn't have any formal coaching in his background
That's
or
true.
doesn't. And so that that encouragement of, hey, be sharp and stay safe is definitely going to be tailored more to those kind of personnel versus someone who's
Yeah.
been through a ton of formalized training,
And I probably take that for granted, right? I mean, I trained with some of the better guys in the world for a lot of years, and so
Yeah.
I grew up in a weight room, right? And so, but yeah, for most of those guys and those guys on that trip, they were like, "What should I do?" And I'm like, "Dude, I mean, at the very least, try and do 100 push-ups on 100 bodyweight squats a day to start with,
Yeah.
and don't put bad shit in your mouth." And I said, "Give that a month, and you'll be really blown away at the
Yeah.
change you'll see in your body, and you'll be really proud of yourself if you can. For one, you're proud of yourself for just doing the push-ups and the squats. It's that
Totally.
easy. You don't need a weight room. There's zero excuses, I believe, but
Yep. It's also like, I mean, if you look at the majority of our adults 45 and older, most of them do anything physical less than half the week, 2, 3 days a week. And that's just not enough. Like, we're
yeah,
designed to move every day. So, um, even if the simple one right now is walking. I'm like, that's what I kind of drive into my parents right now, is that regardless of what your work day is, or if you guys are out in the yard or not, you got a little watch that tells you how many steps you got. And I tell them you need to be targeting 10 to 15,000 every day.
yeah,
They're almost 70, and it's a really achievable goal. And when they do it, they rant and rave about how good they feel. And when they don't do it, they rant and rave about how shitty they feel. Um, and so, that's a simple one. Now you get someone like you and that, and you can mix in things like body weight squats and push-ups. I mean, that's a whole nother 10 years worth of longevity.
yeah,
And for me, a good measuring stick is my dad. What did my dad look like when he was 40? What did he look like when he was 45? What did he look like when he was 35? And I bet you I've been, since 25, I've probably been 10 years ahead of him the whole way. And I'm going to try to keep that. Now,
yeah,
my dad was a blue collar, dig ditches, just carpenter by trade. Like, that's the kind of jobs he did. And so he also did what they traditionally did. 6 o'clock rolled around, they're drinking beers. They smoked
yeah,
2 packs of cigarettes a day. He's Mexican, so we got the sweet tooth too. So it's like, sugary breads and all kinds of donuts and shit
yeah,
every day. And so you just like one saturated fat thing every 20 minutes. So yeah, I mean, I don't do a lot of that, so that's helped as well. But that's kind of, everyone has a different measuring stick on what it is that keeps them kind of healthy and going. And my other kind of internal goal is like, man, I'd love to be 100. I just want to be 100. The average male these days, they're dying between 60 and 70.
yeah.
And so I just want to be 100 because it don't happen that much anymore. And
No,
that's what kind of keeps my conscience sharp with, um, being careful what I'm throwing in my mouth. And now, look, I'm like anybody else. When it's time to party, I'll party. When it's time to, get away with the boys and eat some big old greasy,
yeah,
double cheeseburgers with bacon on
yeah.
them and whatever else, I'm right there with them.
Well, and
But
that's why
that's a
you limit all this
small
stuff.
percentage of what my annual intake looks like.
Yeah, that's why you got to limit that stuff, right? You can't be boozing every night because you
No.
do want to have a whiskey with the boys, but we all know that if you make too much of a habit of that, then you're going to go too far. You're going to find that edge, and you have to just put it away forever, right? I mean, we
I
all have
always
that.
hear this. I always hear this from guys. They're always like, "Man, but if I don't ever drink bourbon, then when I get with the boys, I have like one glass and I'm hammered." I always tell them like, "Well, dude, you didn't go hard enough when you were a kid, so you weren't prepped enough." Because I did
Yeah,
enough in my childhood that, dude, I could take 3 months off and still come back and hammer a bottle with the
come
boys and
back
walk
strong.
away
Yeah,
just fine. So,
yeah. What'd you, with your dad, Bo? Like, I mean, growing up, I think that's always a fun one to look at. Is I think for me, there's things I took from him that I left behind. I said, I never want to touch that. I never want to be like that. And things I do want to be like. What are a couple things, from your father that you said, okay, I'm going to really hold on to some of those good lessons you did learn, and then a couple things you'd probably learn to leave alone as well.
I mean, my dad taught me everything I know about tools. I'm handy. I can swap out a tire. I can, change my own oil. I probably need a little bit of help, but I can damn near rebuild a transmission.
Yeah.
And so, just a lot of those things rubbed off. I mean, to the meticulousness of taking care of my yard, that comes from my dad. And like, if you got to get down
Dude,
there with a pair of scissors to get a couple
was
of,
he an immigrant? Like, how many generations in as a Mexican was he? Now, I mean, if he was in Texas, he was always, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I have
So
people
all
tell
of
me
my
like
dad's
we
family,
didn't
yeah.
cross the border crossed us, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's
So
it's
my dad's great grandmother,
mhm.
so it would have been my second great grandmother, was full blooded Apache Indian. She was Chiricahua Apache Indian. And his grandfather was full blooded Mexican. He was born near Juarez. And at some point or another, they connected around the border and made their way up through, I think from what I remember, a few years they were in Del Rio and then Brownsville, Texas, and then eventually made their way up to a tiny little town that's barely still there. It's called Melvin, and that's where my dad was born. That's near like Abilene, Brady,
Yeah,
San Angelo, that kind of area. And my dad went to a tiny little school. The church actually that is still there that my grandmother went to her whole life, and that's actually where we buried my grandparents. It's tiny. I mean, you can fit maybe 25 people inside that thing. Majority of the congregation actually, when we buried them, was standing outside the church looking through the windows. Um, but tiny little town was one stoplight back then. There's not even one there now. The high
yeah,
school that my dad went to is not there anymore. They end up moving all the kids to the neighboring town. My dad played 7v7 football there. He learned how to box there. He was a Golden Glove in Texas. Um, and and they grew up as soon as they were as tall as the hoe, they were chopping sugar beets in the summertime, and that's what they
yeah,
did. They worked all summer, saved up, bought their blue jeans and their tennis shoes for the school year, and did that all over again the next year.
yeah,
Big family. I think he was one of seven, if I remember right.
yeah,
So yeah, that's where a lot of the Mexican side comes from. My mother's side of the family actually all came in through the one of the ports. I think it was New York or New Jersey, but they came in from Scotland and went straight down south and stuck a stake in the ground about 50 miles off the coast of Mississippi, which my mom still actually owns that property, that original property. That was mid 1860s, 1850s, something like that when they did that. So we have a family cemetery down there, and there's some headstones in there from like 1866, 1871, and then all the way up to our generations now. That's on my mom's side. So that's all the Caucasian side. And half that family is Mississippi, Louisiana. That's where they're all at. All my dad is Texas and Mexico.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So your dad really was like kind of that like hero to you. He's a Gold Glove boxer, worked his ass off.
Oh, dude, I loved
Probably a
it.
guy
I
that if
mean,
he grabbed a hold of you, you knew it, right? Like you're like, oh,
he
do not let
and
him
I
get
would
his hands
say
on you.
from the years of carpentry and just always, I mean, he built houses, I mean, he did all kinds of shit, but I swear his hand was like a freaking cinder block. And
Yes,
it used to blow my mind that earlier in his life, he used to punch people with that. Cause I'm like, dude, that thing would absolutely
God,
just
that
kill
would hurt.
someone.
You know,
And,
yeah,
yeah, funny story about my dad boxing. So he boxed up until he was like 17. And right after he had won Golden Gloves in the weight class down, and then the next class up, I forget what that was. It might have been he was little, so it might have been like 145 or something. He fought this kid that he said, son, every time he hit me, he would follow through and his elbow would hit me. And he's like, I was just getting cut and just beat by this dude's elbows. And he pretty much decided after that fight, he's like, I'm good. That was it. That was the end of his boxing career. Like he
yeah,
just focused on track and field and football after that. So,
nice.
um, but yeah, he was my hero, man. Still is. I mean, he was a tournament bass fisherman. Taught me everything I know about ripping lips in the fresh water down here in Texas and Louisiana. I mean, if I was with him in the summer, any day he
Yeah,
had off of work, we were on a lake.
yeah.
He had a bass boat. He had like a 1978 bomber with like a 150 Merc on it, dude. And we ripped all over Texas on that thing. Fishing father son tournaments, and sometimes I would just go and do co-angler stuff and help him warm up for other tournaments and stuff. But and we fished a lot of the big, awesome lakes in Texas. We fished Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn and Lake Fork. We fished Amistad back when you could get on it. It's tough to get on it now. All the cartels and stuff are running around all over it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's down there. It's one of those Mexico border lakes. Lake
Hmm.
Guerrero, same thing. You can't hardly get on that one anymore.
I bet it's good
But
fishing
yeah,
now, though, right? I mean,
what's
it's
that?
It's got to be good fishing right now, right? If you're willing to
Oh,
risk it.
I'm sure, because no one's wanting to get on it. But
No.
yeah, no, and then I always like that's where I learned how to get around firearms. Was my dad. Like I shot he had a 410 pump shotgun. It's an old Stevens pump shotgun. It's from the 60s, and that was the shotgun that I learned to shoot. I still have it in my safe right now, and so running around tagging rabbits and coons with that thing, and then eventually getting in. My dad had a custom made 25-06 that he had built in Abilene, Texas. My sister actually has it right now, and that was one of the long action, big son of a bitch that kicked the crap out of you. It was like an old mahogany handmade
Yeah.
stock, and but yeah, I mean that's kind of how I learned how to shoot and get familiar with that stuff, along with some of my uncles on my mom's side of the family. But my dad was kind of my big influence there. And back then, there wasn't a lot of high fences then in
Yeah.
Texas, and so my dad was hunting public land, or he'd get permission on little ranches. And look, man, if you came out of there with a little 3-year-old 6 point, like that was a big day. There wasn't really, at least in where he grew, where he was around, there wasn't a lot of like trophy hunting. But he'd pull 2 or 3 whitetail a year, and then I was always in school during those times, so he'd send me pictures or he'd call me. My parents were divorced, so I got lucky one year. I was visiting him for Thanksgiving, and I got there 2 days after he just killed a deer, and he hung it. He had a buddy that had a walk-in freezer, and they hung it. And so he waited to break it down until I got there, just so I could see the process and understand how to do it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he definitely rubbed off a lot on me on that. And then I would definitely say, when it comes to the handy stuff, like I'll see if I can do it before I'll call someone to fix it, which I
Yeah.
think that comes a lot from my dad. And I have friends that won't do that. They'll be like, "Hey, man, my garbage disposal's jacked up. I'm going to call this dude to come fix it."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
No.
"Yeah, I would never pay for that. That's actually
No.
taking away from money I want to spend on my deer lease." So
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and take care of that. Go down to
Yep.
Home Depot
Yep.
and grab what we need. And yeah,
Figure
so
it out,
that
right?
definitely comes from my pop for sure.
Yeah. How are you handing that down to your boys? You got 2 boys, and I'm thinking like 8 and 11 or somewhere in there. How old are the boys?
Yeah, they're 7 and 11. My 11-year-old will be 12 in November. Um,
Yeah.
the biggest thing is I try not to force much on them, but I try to make them around everything. So
Right.
they have an awareness. So my kids have seen me with firearms out, cleaning them, managing them, taking care of them since they were running around in diapers. Like,
Yeah.
I don't try to hide it from them. I don't try to make it this mysterious thing that they want to sneak over and play around with. And I've done that with all of our gear, our bows, our arrows, our broadheads, our knives, and so just keep them around it. And then when we're doing stuff, when we're working on the yard, me and my wife, the boys are out there. Even if they're not
Yeah.
big enough to do the thing we're doing, they're out there. Now, if they
Yep.
can bag leaves, they're bagging leaves. If they're pulling weeds, they're pulling weeds. They're taking out trash. They're learning. Like, biggest thing I want to know is you can do things on your own. You don't need to rely on people.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have some friends, and that's going to be great. Every now and then you're going to have buddies that help you with stuff, but for the most part, you got to be, self-sufficient first. That's all I'm trying to show them. Same with the
Yeah.
hunting and fishing. Like, I'm not cramming it down their throat. I'm just making them around it. They got to be around it. So when we go to camp, they go with us. When they go fishing, they go with us. And if they don't want to do it, you don't got to do it. Just hang out.
Right.
But the beauty of that is eventually the bug catches them. And then I'm already getting, my 11-year-old, it was 2 years ago. And he's like, "Dad, can I get a hunting license?" I'm like, "Well, we need to do some prerequisite stuff so
Absolutely.
you can go through your hunter
Yeah.
safety course and do that." And so that's what we've done the last 2 years. And he's actually in the middle of taking his hunter safety right now. My little one is just getting into wanting to shoot a BB gun. He didn't want nothing to do with it for a while. And now he's like, "Oh, Dad," he's like, "I want to shoot the BB gun."
Yeah.
Where my older one's starting to get into the big bore stuff now. He's shot a 6.5 Creed the last couple years, and now I've got a 7 PRC that he's starting to play around with. So he's just, because he's familiar with it. He knows he
Yeah.
knows how to run a bolt gun. He knows where the safety's at. He knows not to put his finger inside that trigger guard until he's got a clear picture of what he's shooting at. He's been through all of that stuff. So. And again, going back to, I think it doesn't work well when you just try to force it on them. You got to wait till they ask. It's the same with
Yeah.
lifting weights. My 11-year-old now, he's like, he's asked a lot of questions and says a lot of things, but I don't actually take him into that weight room until he's like, Dad, can we work out right now? Okay, then we'll go.
Yep.
And I make sure I'm at the ready. If I got 10 minutes to spare, yeah, bud, let's go. I'll
Yeah.
show you something.
Yeah.
But I just try not to force it on him because I don't want to turn him off to it, you know?
Yeah, that's been the line I've been walking to with my son is just exactly that, like not forcing him into the weight room. I've always really tried. Early on, I would make him do push-ups as punishment, and I stopped doing that because I was like, I don't want to have that relationship with any movement as punishment, right? Like movement's not punishment. Although I did for a long time, like I had a stack of paver bricks I didn't use on a project. They were sitting out behind our shop here, and there's probably 30 of them. And one of his punishments early on was like, if he was smart enough to mom or whatever, I'd have him make a trip. It was probably like 200, 400 feet, right? Of, hey, pick all these up, move them over here, make a nice stack, and then come get me when the stack's good. I'll approve it, and then you're going to put them back, right? And that was kind of my go-to with him, because with a boy especially, I think that moving physically, because usually I found if he's being an asshole, it was he needed to move. He'd been at school all day. He hadn't done enough movement because they don't do enough movement at school.
And man, nothing calms you down like fatigue.
Exactly.
Nothing just gets you back even.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was just like, go out here. You're going to be alone. It's time to think. You're going to do something physical. But I tried to figure out a way not to have like push-ups, sit-ups, running, any of that kind of stuff be a punishment,
Yeah.
And it's worked well, and it's continued to apply because for him, I don't know if he's really got ADD or he's just a boy in school. And I think that's probably what it is. He's just a boy in a school system that's not made for him. But, starting out his day with a little bit of a heavy ruck, finishing his day with some movement. And that's really seemed to help him mentally a lot as well. That relationship with movement.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same. I don't want them to associate, training or fitness with negativity. But boys, I do think you got to show them consequences. So whatever you can come up with, if they don't understand consequence, they just think it's a free for all, and they all want to be. It's like we were all pre-wired to be little Genghis Khans and just go around and conquer shit. And it's like, no, dude, you actually got to follow rules. We live in a domesticated society, so we got to show up on time. We got to do our job. We got to do it with etiquette, and there'll be some grace. We'll make a little money off of it. You can come back and do it again tomorrow. But if you're an asshole, you can't enjoy any of these freedoms. Boy, at some point you gotta figure out, and sometimes by creative means, but just how to show them what consequences are, and that we have to be mindful of them.
Yeah, and you don't want to over domesticate them either, right? I think that's something I'm always cautious of as a father, is like over domesticating your kids. Like you want them to hold on to that wild, because that's what makes life so much fun. That's why you loved adventuring with your dad, because he was out still being a little boy. Like, I think something I ask everybody is like, and me and you will get to this, but what would I do today that would make 12-year-old me proud, or that he would love, and so for you, it's got to be like, go shoot something, go fishing, and that's what your dad was still doing as an adult, is he's just like, this is what I loved as a kid. I'm going to keep doing it. And so it's just a balance of not over domesticating him, to make him fit in that box, because they're easier. Life would be really easy if your kid just followed all the rules, did all the things at school, didn't act out, didn't want to go run, didn't maybe punch somebody or get punched, but it's all those things that they need to experience, right?
Yeah. I for the longest time, I would say to my kids, like, oh man, there's not enough dirt under your fingernails. Like, go outside. And then, on days when there's dirt under their family, like, yeah, man, when you got dirt under your nails, look at that little kid you're playing with. He doesn't have any dirt under his nails. Like, I would always say that. Well, the thing I'm a stickler on is them cutting their nails. I can't stand when they got long nails, and I'm just like, dude, cut your nails. And like, if you don't know how, ask Dad. I'll help you cut your nails. Well, it's funny. My wife, I was like, man, these kids' nails are out of control. Like, we got to cut their nails. And she's like, well, you're always saying like you need dirt under your nails. Well, if you cut them off, you can't really get any dirt under there. So I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I want to be domesticated on one side, but on the other side, like, I want to be dirty. I want to be weathered. I want some calluses,
Yeah. I was teasing my son the other day. I was like, are you transitioning? What's going on here, buddy? Because those things are getting pretty long. I'm going to be a sister paint them for you pretty soon if you don't watch it, And
I'm like, dude, when your toenails are that long, it's got to hurt inside your shoes. Like, bro, just tell somebody so we can clean that up.
Age too. Like, I'll light him up on a Monday, cut your nails, and he will. I'll have him. I bring him, like, I'm checking him, like, no, that one's not good enough. That one's not good enough.
Yeah.
And by Friday, the freaking things are growing out again. Like, they're just growing so fast right now too.
Yep.
that it's hard for them to keep up with. But it's a funny thing. But that's the little stuff. And as a father, like you think you've got them to where they're like wiping their butt and cleaning and clipping their nails when they're young. And I think you'll find you have to redo that again when they're like 13, 14. You're like, hey, did you forget how to shower and wipe your ass, bud? Because what's going on here?
Yep. Yep. Totally.
Yeah. And
Man,
so
we're
there's just
getting, I'm sure you're already there, but we're getting into, you got to wear deodorant and hey, you can't run around naked, right? Like you're a young man, so we got to
yeah, you
close the
are.
door when we're in the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. We're going through that transition right now.
Yeah. My
Um,
son found some cologne. I didn't even know I had it. And he looked on a YouTube or something on how to like spray cologne on us. He comes walking down on his first day of school. He was a couple days ago. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on right now? Or my eyes are burning. And he's like, well, I looked it up and it said you're supposed to spray 4 spritzes. And I'm like, okay, for sure not. I was like, that bottle of cologne you see that I've had for 20 years, bud. You know what I mean? Like it's older than you are. Like, if you must, you know what I
oh
mean? Like
man,
one
that's
little
funny.
spritz, but the whole room shouldn't know you walked in the room,
Yeah.
but it's like that testosterone sitting now and the girls,
How many
he'll
days in
kill
are
me.
they right now?
They're 4 days in, 5 days in
4 days.
today.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's a trip, man, but it's a blast. And so, well, something I thought about when you were talking, dude, what do you do to keep dirt under your nails, bro? I mean, that's why you go out to the ranch and you
Yeah.
you you put in plots and you do all that stuff. But I mean, I think as grown men, I always have a strong desire to, um, I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, I just want 12-year-old me, you know, to be really proud. Let me ask you that question real quick, 'cause that's two things I like to ask guys is,
Yeah.
what do you do in the day that 12-year-old you would be like, this is awesome. I never thought. And then the other one I would ask, and this isn't something I thought of, but like 80-year-old you, what might he encourage you to do today?
To
So
do.
12-year-old you, what's he blown up by? And, you know, do you think about that 80-year-old Bo?
Yeah, I mean,
Or for you,
12-year-old me,
100-year-old Bo?
I still play with my toys. Like I accessorize my arrows and my bows and my gear. My garage is my toy spot. I mean, that's where all my
Yeah.
optics are at and my ammo and my guns and my whatever, tripods, and constantly tinkering around with different combinations of put this arc rail on this rifle, put it on this tripod. How's that feel? What's the weight? Same with tools and things like when it comes to like where we live and what we, our domicile and everything, like I want all that to be my responsibility. I try to pay people to do things as little as possible. So I fix what's broken. We do our own yard. I don't care what my job ever requires or how important I ever get. I'm not paying somebody to cut my grass. I'm not paying somebody to weed my beds and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
um, we take pride in doing all that. We pressure wash our pavement. We pressure wash our vehicles. We do, we try to just do everything as much as we can. That keeps me busy, especially outside of work. I work a pretty standard day and there's a few hours of daylight when I get home. So it's either spent with the kids or if they're busy, then I'm in somewhere tinkering with something.
Yeah.
Speaking of garbage disposal, we just replaced our garbage disposal not too long ago. Um,
Yeah.
and I did
Yep.
that. And
And that's a great way to show the kids, like, here's a wrench, and
yep,
like you're
yep,
capable of doing this, right? And I think that's such a gift for them because I told, my son was actually my son and my daughter were griping. It was months ago. I had them sweep in the garage, right? And they were kind of like griping at me. For one, I wanted to just slap them around and go, "You're going to sweep the damn garage, right? This is your job." But at the same time, I said, "Hey, this is freedom, ultimately, right? Like, if you can learn how to sweep a garage, you never have to do a job you hate for more than a day in your life."
yep,
Because there's always somebody needed to go clean up a workspace, clean up, sweep, mop. You can go be a janitor, whatever, but you'll never have to work in a job you hate. You might hate that job, but mopping and sweeping is a great way to get time to think about what you want to do with your life and what you should be doing with your life. And
yeah.
not that that's even a bad job, really, ultimately, but I think there's
The
freedom
other,
in boys that, or your
I
kids.
think the other visual in that too is that knowing that both sides of your parents can do both. Like they see
Yes.
my wife helping like break animals down and process meat and do that. They see me sweeping floors and washing dishes and
Yep.
folding laundry. Like we both do it. We don't, it's not like, okay, you're the woman, you do all this. I'm the guy, I do all this. It's like
Yep.
we both contribute to it. My wife will be out. If I don't have time, she's out there cutting the grass. And when you see both doing it, I feel like we get more questions from them, like, "Oh, when do I get to do that?" Or you
Yeah.
mentioned like, turning a wrench and stuff. That's when if they just see us doing it, they'll be like, "Oh, what is that?" Well, that's a pair of channel locks. What do you do with those? Well, they're good for this type of stuff. Well, that's a crescent wrench. What do you do with that? Well, it's good for this type of stuff. They'll just start asking questions,
Yeah.
especially if you're putting it in front of them often and doing it in front of them. But if you never do it, they're never going to see it. It's not like
Yeah.
the plumber comes to the house and he's fixing stuff. It's not like I'm gonna make my kids stand there and watch the plumber.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if I'm doing it, he's gonna stand there and watch me.
Yeah. How do you
So
get guys that are maybe our age, Bo, that are just living in that box? They're not doing anything that would make, maybe their 12-year-old self didn't do those things, but I got to think
yeah,
every man has a little kid inside of him that wants to go do those stuff. Like,
totally. I think
how does that
it's a
guy take that
pattern of
step?
behavior, right, that stems from early on. And to break that for an adult male, like you got to get uncomfortable. You're gonna have to learn a skill from someone. You're gonna have to tell
Right.
someone, "Hey, man, I don't know how to do that," which is hard for some males to admit. And find someone to kind of help you do that. And I think that's what good friendships are for. I think that, I mean, if you got a parent or, a family mentor like that, that's even better. I had two uncles that I attribute a ton of that to. And then, of course, my father. And then my stepfather was another one who just different set of skills, but man, he rubbed off a ton in some different areas.
Yeah.
So, but you got to kind of find who those mentors are. That can be challenging for guys that are already our age that are trying to learn how to do that now. But it's
Yeah.
just, putting your ego down. The same way with me having to learn how to, trade stocks and shit. I don't know any of that shit. I have to constantly ask people for help because it's not my world. Um, Others, they're masters at that, but they don't know how to change their own tire. I'm like, okay, I got you. Let's go. I'll show you how to pull your jack out and take the lugs off and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We just got to
And
be
there's almost
willing to kind
nobody
of
that's
put that
able.
guard down as an adult male and say, I don't know how to do that. Can you show me how to do that?
And
Which
every
can
man
be
would show you, right? If you said, "Hey, I don't know how to," like you just said, like, "I don't know how to do this. Would you mind coming over and helping me?"
because
Like,
most of
there's
the time,
nobody that say no.
yeah, and most of the time we're proud, right? I'm like, when a friend asks me how to, I'm like, dude, I know how to do that. Heck yeah, I'll show you how to do that. It'll take us 5 minutes. And you're like
Yeah.
proud to do it. But the one
Yep.
asking is usually it's like that barrier of like, I should probably already know how to do this. He's going to think I'm an
Yep.
idiot for asking him, like, how do I do this? You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So
but
how about 80-year-old self, man? Like, what are you doing? You think about that old man, or for you, 100-year-old self. I mean,
yeah,
I think
it's
you're dialed
funny.
in, but like, what are you doing for that guy?
It's funny that you asked that because I've been a lot of my self-reflection here recently has been, I would say I put a lot of effort into making sure I've got time with my wife and my kids. But if I really try to get humble about it and reflect, I think my 100-year-old self would say, "Hey, idiot, you think you're trying right now, but you actually need to devote more time. You need to figure
Yeah.
out how to shave more time off that other shit you're doing for work and whatever else, and you need to figure out how to get more time." Because I think that 100-year-old me is going to find somewhere to dig up some regret to say,
For
"Fuck,
sure.
I wish when I was 45 I did this with them, or I did that, or I took them here, or we went and did experience that together." I do, and I don't know that I'm ever going to outrun that. I think that's just my conscience keeping me honest and saying that needs to
Yeah.
always be your priority, no matter how fired up you get about hunting season or how fired up you get about this job or whatever else. Like they've got to stay at the top of your priority list. And
I
so
feel
I
guilt
don't.
around that a lot of times too. Like, when I really, really be honest about like how much energy I spend thinking about a next hunting trip,
Mm,
or, anything, I'm going, when is the last time I spent this much energy thinking about creating a special moment with my kids or my wife,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it's hard because we love it so much, and I love being in the woods, but it's like, when have I ever really done this much prep and spent this much time and energy
yeah,
on a trip with my wife for the weekend, or a camping trip with my kids,
yeah.
and we're gonna
No,
have
totally.
regrets, man. Like, I think it's just, you have to choose your regrets sometime, because I don't think we get to the end of this thing and we don't have regrets. I think we just have
No,
to just be picky about what we're gonna
yeah.
regret.
We all get a hand to play. We're going to play it the best we know how, but we're going to look back and be like, shit, I wish I would have thrown that card in here. Or, can't run away from
Yeah.
that. But I think that's what kind of keeps you operating better than the average is if you have a conscience about that. The ones that never reflect on that or don't have a conscience about that, probably gonna have a little bit more regret, probably some real regret.
Yeah.
I don't know that I will feel like I did a bad job. I don't know that my conscience will let me do that, but I'm always gonna wish that I'd done better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost always just done more, right? Like I could have spent
Yeah.
one more weekend with the kids, especially like where I'm at, like my daughter being 16, she'll be 17 here this year. And
Yeah.
she's driving now. She's pretty much independent, and I saw something on Instagram that said you get 61 days or 61 minutes a day on average with your kids. And I thought, I don't know that I even get that with my daughter now.
Wow.
I might get 20 minutes a day where I see her when she's not off doing stuff with her friends. It's like, I'll see her.
Right.
She got home last night at 10 o'clock, right? So I'm pretty much asleep by 10 o'clock, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, that
yeah.
breaks my heart. I know that time is coming, but the folks that are going through it, I'm like, man, I dread that time when they start
Oh, I
getting that
dread it.
independent. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it's reprioritizing. Again, it's the same thing we run into. It's that ego of letting go of other stuff and say, no, this is my priority. I don't have time for that right now. Even friendships, right? You go, hey, I can't go every weekend on a boys trip or
Yeah.
whatever that is. I haven't spent enough time with my own kids.
I'm glad we're on this. I'm actually right now, I'm off of social media. I'm just gonna like put it down for a while, just for that.
Yep.
Like, look, if I can put this down and buy myself another hour a day, couple hours a day,
Yeah.
all right, let's give that a run. But that all kind of sparked from this, just kind of reflecting on finding ways to get more time, to spend more time. Well, what am I wasting time on? Well, that's an
Yeah.
easy one. So put that thing down for a
Absolutely.
while. Not saying I'm never going
Yeah.
to pick it back up, but since I got on it in 2000, whatever, 16, 15, I haven't put the damn thing down. I haven't, if anything, it's gotten worse. It's gotten more. So to kind of
Yeah.
just put it down for
Yeah.
a while, it's kind of like what you look for in your workouts, man. It's a different kind of release.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's the same thing. And that's hard because it's such a reality of business and networking and
yeah,
some of that right now that I've
yep,
thought a lot about how do you kind of silo it to where it isn't on your phone. Maybe it's just on your computer, but you treat it like work, right? You go in, okay, I'm
yeah,
going to log in, take 30 minutes, say hi, post what I need to for my business or whatever I'm trying to do. It's going to help my brand grow, but then put
yeah.
it back down again and treat it just like you would anything else, right? It's like you pick it up,
Hmm.
you do it, it's part of work, and you put it back down again.
Yeah.
But it's hard to
Yep.
set those limits.
That's
It is
tough.
engineered.
Yeah,
There's billions of dollars behind sucking us in and getting us to watch.
that's true. And I am curious to see, we spend all this time building these networks and relationships and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, the second you're inactive, I'm curious if I come back in 6 months or whatever, how many of those are still there? I'm just curious to
Yeah,
see what that attrition rate looks like. And I think that will either encourage me to, I don't actually need this at all, or maybe help me find a middle ground of it's not that important. I actually don't need to use it on my phone. I could just use it on a desktop or something
right.
along those lines,
I don't
So I'm
think it's that
curious to
important.
see. Yeah.
I think it probably isn't anything at all, right? I mean, it really doesn't.
Well, man, a good friend of ours the other day threw something at me. Brandon Lilly said, "Hey, man, when's the last time you just sat in silence and remembered?" And I was talking about this. I was talking about putting down social media and stuff. And he goes, "That's what he asked me." And I'm like, I first time I think I have in a while was the day that I put that down. I was just sitting there, kind of pondering over stuff.
Yeah,
And he's like, man, we get so used to scrolling and you're ripping through one memory after another, one story after another, and you're just like flash checking them. But you're not
yep,
storing stuff. You're not getting to a point where you can regurgitate that 10 days later or a year later or 2 years later.
yeah,
But think about how vivid you remember some of those stories when you were a kid growing up. We don't have those
yeah,
vivid memories now because we're automated and used to having this thing right in front of us that does it for us. And I think he's onto something. I think there's a problem with that. I think that we're almost taken away from the functionality of our brain and how our memories work. So that hit me a little bit. And now it's kind of got me further down the rabbit hole, just trying to figure
yeah,
out just how much detriment I might be causing myself by
yeah,
freaking scrolling through that thing every day, you know?
yep,
So, and
yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
we
And
know, look, it's not all bad. There's a lot of positives that come out of social media, but learning, like you said, the moderation and understanding when and how to use it so that it doesn't become a crutch or an illness for you, you know.
it's hard to put it back on. I do that a lot during the week. I'll take it off during the week, and then during, like, say, Friday
Mm,
afternoon, I'll put it back on and message with the buddies and all that. But
Yeah.
I've had weeks where I'm like, I don't feel like putting it back on the phone. I just don't. I don't feel like
Yeah.
looking at it. I don't feel like engaging in that. Like the buddies that
Yeah.
are friends, they can call you, pick up the phone, call me, say
Sure.
hi, And
Yeah.
but it's the people that are important, they're sitting right there in that house, right? And they're prioritizing the way they should be. So yeah,
Yep.
it's a trippy thing. There's a
100%.
lot more distractions, man, now than there ever used to be. I mean, just
Yes, there
you
are.
think about like you and your dad out on that boat, and he was 100% there with you. He was no place else, right? He wasn't thinking about what's out there, thinking about what's at work. He was
Yep.
just with you on the boat, and all it was about was like that next big bass or whatever it is. And I think that's why
Yeah.
more and more, even guys, I think it feels so good to be in the woods where you go, oh, thank God I get to get away from all that, unplug,
Heck yeah.
and just be singularly focused on one thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
And we just don't do that enough,
Nope. And that it is, you're right. That's why it feels so good when we get out there and it smells
Yep.
good and it tastes
Yep.
good.
Yep.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome, man. So, what else you got coming up, Bo, before we wrap up here, man? I mean, anything fun, anything
Um,
you're working on personally that the rest of it I can learn from if I'm just being selfish here for me
yeah.
and going,
No, dude.
what can I learn from you today, brother?
So I got to tell a little bit of this story before I get off. We got an appointment coming up for our son, but um, my wife is the sweetest thing that's ever walked the earth, and we don't really gamble. We don't like do auctions and things. We don't really throw money away on things, anything like that. And we went to an SCI event this past weekend. A good friend of mine for a long time. She's a wing shooter. She guides bird hunts and all kinds of stuff, raises bird dogs. And she's like, hey, there's this SCI chapter in Fort Worth that's having a banquet. Like, you should come, bring your family. I'll get you tickets. And I was like, hey, this sounds great. And so she gets us tickets, and the boys were free because they're too young. And so anyway, we walk in. We bought a couple like just basic raffle tickets. They're raffling all kinds of stuff, man. Four wheelers and side by sides and gun safes and the whole nine. And then they had a silent auction that had some different, bourbon and different stuff, but it had a couple of cool toys in there. One was this boat with a trailer, a truck with a trailer and a boat on it, and this whole fishing rig from Bass Pro Shops. And my 7-year-old was all over. He's like, Dad, can we bid on that thing? And so my wife was hell bent, like, we're bidding on that. We're gonna get it for him, like. Then it came with like a shotgun and a revolver, and so my older one was all into the shotgun and revolver. Anyway, well, we were having dinner, and we sat at a table with some incredible gentlemen who were retired special operators. One was an Air Force pilot, one was a Green Beret, the other one was a recon scout sniper, and they were awesome. And we're just deep into conversation with them. We're eating. Well, the auctioneer starts going off, and I wasn't really paying attention, but there was a book that they put on the table, and it tells you there were 32 auctions, and it tells you what's up for auction on every one of them, and what to expect, and blah 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 blah. So my wife's looking, and this auctioneer's going off, and we're talking to these guys and just kind of into it and enjoying dinner, having some beers. And my wife leans over and goes, hey, that Argentina red stag hunt you did last year, like, well, how much did that cost? And so,
Mm,
I told her that was like $6,500. She's like, okay. And just sound like a casual question. I wasn't paying attention. Well, the auctioneer's going. Next thing I know, the auctioneer points over and he's like, whatever, 3,500 to this lady down here. And I look, and my wife's got her hand up in the air, and I was like, what'd you do? And she's like, oh, I'm
yep.
bidding on that. She's like, this is a way better price than what you paid. And so I
Yep.
was just like, what is happening right now? So then other tables start bidding or whatever, and then comes back around. Next thing you know, she bids, I don't know what she bid, like 4,000. And the guy's like, sold to the lady down in front. And I was like, holy shit, you won that. And she's fired up. She's whooping and hollering and clapping. And she's
Yeah.
like, can you believe that? We got that. That was a great price. This is great. And I'm blown away. I'm like, holy crap. My wife just bid in an auction on a hunt that I'm going to get to
Uh-huh.
go do in
You get to
Argentina.
know
I'm
the
like,
defer.
this is where I'm in the twilight zone right now.
Yeah.
Well, we sit down, and that's all done, and we're drinking and finishing dinner and whatever. And dude, it's like an hour later. I turn around, the auctioneer's pointing again. She's got her hand up in the air again. I'm like, babe, what are you doing? She's like, this one's even better. It's for two people, and it's in New Zealand. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, we were supposed to go to New Zealand on our honeymoon, and we never got to go. And so she ends up
Well,
winning that one. And it was an incredible price, like super cheap. And
yeah.
so anyhow, we're gonna hunt red stag in Argentina this spring, and then we're gonna hunt red stag and probably a fallow deer in New Zealand in 27, which she's gonna go with me on that one.
That's beautiful. You just got to get some
So,
plane tickets.
so it's
Get
funny
yourself
because
there, man.
that was way outside of our comfort zone, but
Uh-huh.
also, um, it was just cool to see that side of her. She had a blast. She was laughing her butt off. And there wasn't too much buyer's remorse or regret later on. She was just like, "Hey, I feel like we got a good deal on them." Like,
You
"Yep,
got to do
yep,
it.
we
Yep.
did." And we're gonna
Yep.
make some incredible memories too.
That's the problem with those auctions because you look at what I mean, there's some
Yeah,
good deals to be had there, man. I mean, there really
it's
are.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, funny story from this past weekend. It was a good time.
That's a
But
blast. That's a
yeah,
blast. I
other than
love it.
that, man, I'm looking forward to teaching this first semester of classes and kind of cutting my teeth on that. And man, we've got a lot of great professors in that department, and I just want to not let them down
Yeah,
and show what practical experience can bring to the table in terms of educating the next generation of coaches. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I love the fall, man. It brings hunting season, it brings Thanksgiving, it brings Halloween. It's just a lot of fun stuff with the family. And
I love it too,
I
man.
always look forward to the fall. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
dude, I appreciate you taking the time again. But round two on the podcast, I think
Yeah, brother.
hopefully a lot of stuff taken from it. Just for me, I get selfish. I guess it's just a good conversation for me, and
Yeah, dude. Hopefully there's a round 3 and 4. You let me know.
there will
I
be.
love
Oh,
getting
there
on
will be
here.
for sure.
Yep.
There will be
Yeah.
for sure. So, brother, again, I'm going to keep bugging you. We got to get you out here to hunt some elk, please, at some
I'm
point.
dying. And
We
she's
got
very
Sean.
aware of that. I tell her every
Yeah.
year, I'm like, hey, at some point in the calendar, I got to find time to hang with
Well, you
Brian
need to both come
and go
out, man.
chase some bulls with him.
You guys can both come out and just make a quick trip of it, and we'll
Yeah.
get you out. I know you got Sean Melland is agreed to he probably will get you on a bigger bull because that's what he's good at. We've got him actually. He's coming on tomorrow, I
He
think.
told me, yeah, that's going to be
Yeah.
an awesome conversation,
Well,
man.
dude, he's a savage, man. There's so much to learn from
Yep.
him as well. And so, brother,
Yeah.
just appreciate the shit out of you. Love you tons. And, thanks for coming on. We, it's always good. It's just, I get so excited when I get to chat with you a little bit. So thanks for
Yeah.
your time, bud. I
No,
appreciate you.
likewise, man. Love you guys. I appreciate what you do. Tyrell, thanks a ton for setting this whole thing up. And yeah, man, you guys are great. Any way I can ever contribute or help or maybe an ear to vent to, don't ever hesitate to
Yep.
reach out. So,
Yep. We'll get you hooked up. So, all right, Bo, thanks again, Bo Sandoval on the Front of Center podcast here. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next one here.